Most men fear the line between order and chaos. Julius Caesar did not just cross that line, he erased it. Imagine standing at the banks of the Rubicon. To cross is treason. To stay is insignificance. Caesar looked at his men who were tired, hungry, and outnumbered, and he didn't give them a speech about glory. He gave them a psychological ultimatum. He whispered, "Alia iacti," the die is cast. In that moment he didn't just commit a crime. He committed his followers to a destiny where he was the only god they could follow. This wasn't luck. This was the birth of a sovereign mind. Today we peel back the marble skin of the legend to reveal the cold, calculating machinery of dark psychology that fueled the rise of the most dangerous man in history. If you seek to command your world, you must first understand how Caesar commanded the minds of Rome. The first rule of dominance is to control the narrative of your own existence. Caesar never spoke of himself as a mere human struggling with doubt. In his writings, the Gallic Wars, he referred to himself strictly in the third person. He didn't write, "I conquered the Gauls." He wrote, "Caesar conquered the Gauls." Why? Because the human I is vulnerable. An I can bleed. An I can fail. But Caesar? Caesar is an institution. Caesar is a force of nature. By speaking in the third person, he detached himself from his own mortality and forced the world to view him as a historical inevitability. This is the dissociation technique. When you stop being a person and start being a brand, you become untouchable. In your life, if you want respect, stop acting like the protagonist of a tragedy and start acting like the architect of a legacy. Detach from your emotions. View your moves as if you are observing a grandmaster on a chessboard. The most terrifying weapon in Caesar's arsenal was not his sword, but his mercy. He called it clementia. When Caesar defeated his Roman rivals, he did something that confused the ancient world. He pardoned them. He invited them to dinner. He gave them back their titles. To the masses, he looked like a saint. To his enemies, he was a demon. This is the peak of dark psychology, the debt of life. When you kill an enemy, they are gone. When you forgive an enemy, you own them forever. By sparing their lives, Caesar placed an invisible golden collar around their necks. Every time they looked at him, they were reminded that they only breathed because he allowed it. He didn't want their blood, he wanted their submission. He converted his enemies into a permanent audience for his greatness. True power is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to sustain a life that serves your purpose. Caesar understood that humans do not follow logic, they follow light. He was a master of the dramatic entrance. When he was captured by pirates in his youth, he didn't beg for his life. He took command of the ship. He demanded they double his ransom because he felt he was worth more. He joked with them, read them poetry, and told them to their faces that he would return to crucify them all. He acted like a king while he was in chains. The pirates were mesmerized. They didn't see a prisoner, they saw a sovereign. This is the law of projection. If you project the aura of a king, the world will eventually provide the crown. Caesar knew that the crowd is a beast that feeds on confidence. He dressed better, spoke louder, and walked with a calculated grace that made everyone else feel like background actors in his movie. If you are invisible in your social circle, it is because you are playing by the rules of others. Caesar didn't follow the status quo, he became the status quo. To rule the elite, you must first weaponize the masses. Caesar understood a dark truth that his peers in the Senate ignored. The people do not want freedom, they want a champion. While the aristocrats discussed dry laws in marble halls, Caesar was in the streets. He staged the most expensive games Rome had ever seen. He fed the poor. He spoke their language. But this wasn't altruism, it was a siege. He was building a human shield. By making the public fall in love with his legend, he made himself untouchable by the law. Every time the Senate tried to stop him, they realized they weren't fighting one man, they were fighting the rage of the Roman mob. In modern terms, this is social proof manipulation. When you create an aura of massive support, your enemies fear to strike you, not because you are strong but because of the chaos your fall would trigger. To be sovereign, you must build an alliance with the environment around you. Make yourself the pillar that holds the roof up. If they pull you down, everything collapses. That is the ultimate insurance policy. Predictability is a slow death. Caesar's greatest tactical advantage was his speed, what the Romans called Celeritas. He would arrive at the gates of an enemy city before they even received the news that he had crossed the border. He moved his legions through winter storms and impassable mountains. Psychologically, this creates total cognitive overload. When you move faster than your opponent can think, they stop planning and start panicking. A panicked mind cannot be sovereign. A panicked mind is a slave to its environment. Caesar used speed to force his enemies into making mistakes. He didn't just fight their soldiers, he fought their nervous systems. He kept them in a state of permanent anxiety, never knowing where the blow would come from. In your pursuit of power, never let them pin you down. If they can predict your next move, they can counter it. Be the storm that arrives while the sky is still blue. Silence followed by a strike so fast it feels like destiny. The final lesson of Caesar's dark psychology is the most brutal, the willingness to lose everything. At the Battle of Alesia, Caesar was surrounded. He built 2 walls, one to keep the enemy in and one to keep the reinforcements out. He was trapped in a wooden ring of his own making. His generals thought he was insane. But Caesar knew that greatness requires a point of no return. By putting his back against the wall, he transformed his soldiers into cornered animals. He knew that a man with a way out will fight with half his heart. A man who is trapped will fight with the strength of 10. This is the burn the ships mentality. If you want to conquer the island, you must destroy the vessels that could take you home. Caesar's psychological mastery was his ability to convince his followers that the only way forward was through the enemy. On the Ides of March, Caesar fell. But even in death, his psychology won. He had crafted his will to leave his private gardens to the people of Rome and a sum of money to every citizen. When his blood was still wet on the Senate floor, and his will was read, the city exploded. The men who killed him thinking they were liberators were hunted down like dogs by the very people they claimed to save. Caesar's shadow was more powerful than the living breath of his enemies. To be a sovereign is to play a game that lasts longer than your life. It is to build a mind so disciplined, so cold, and so calculated that even your end serves your purpose. The world is a chaotic theater. Most are just spectators waiting for permission to act. Julius Caesar didn't wait. He took the stage, rewrote the script, and forced the world to memorize his name. Master your mind. Command your world. Join the order. Stay sovereign.